Critics are saying it's time for us to have an autonomous currency from South African rand. Let's talk about the possibilities of that.
Okay, so basically when it comes to a currency arrangement, you have three broad options, and then there's subsets within these options. So those three options are basically a free float exchange rate, a fully pegged exchange rate, or the intermediate, which is a sort of partially pegged exchange rate. Namibia has a pegged exchange rate, South Africa has a free float exchange rate, and Botswana has the intermediate one. So these are the sort of three options. The intermediate option, there's a few different ways that you can do it. But all of those options require you to have reserves. As soon as a currency's value is determined by the demand and supply of that currency. And if you look at what's happening in Botswana, they sit with a big reserve pile that allows them to artificially create demand or to provide additional supply of that currency. And so they can intervene in the currency in order to keep it more or less where they want it. And that where they want it is based on their long-term trading arrangements or their long-term trade with the rest of the world. So they know long-term it will mean revert to more or less the right level, but they have reserves to be able to intervene in the meantime and ensure that it's not too volatile. Now that's very important for a small economy, and our economy is very similar in size to that of Botswana. If you have a free-floating exchange rate in a very small economy like one of our two, a single project like this Husab project would have moved the exchange rate massively. A single event like the introduction of this Equitable Empowerment Bill and the outflows that resulted from that would have moved the currency significantly. And this creates a great deal of uncertainty, and it creates a whole host of other issues. So that option of going free float is not really an option. For Namibia, that intermediate option of an intermediate solution isn't an option because we don't sit with reserves. So basically, our options are to keep the situation or to keep the peg that we currently have, or to go to a completely free float. At the moment and for the foreseeable future, it is absolutely inconceivable that going to a free float would be a better arrangement than what we have. And the reason that we say this is, if you do a simple valuation of what the Namibia dollar would be if it was independent from the rand now, it would be about 15% weaker than it currently is. If you just take that alone, it means that our imports would be 15% more expensive, and we import almost everything that we consume. We produce a little bit of chicken, a bit of fish, some agricultural products, some pasta, some cement, but pretty much other than that, we import everything. And so that would all increase by 15%, but that wouldn't actually be the end of it. We have a lot of companies in Namibia that have Namibia dollar assets and rand liabilities. Now, in order that those remain more or less balanced, if the currency were to depeg, then that balance could be lost. And if you see a 15% depreciation in the value of your assets versus your liabilities, it erodes your equity. In the event that there's a build-up to a currency depegging, a lot of corporates in Namibia would take money out of the country in order to reduce their Namibia asset exposure vis-a-vis their rand liabilities. In the event that that happens, you'll have big outflows from the country. You'll see much less investment into the country with all of the uncertainty. And that depreciation would not stop at 15%. And our estimate is that if we depegged from the rand, it would be a roughly 60% depreciation in the value of the currency within a year.
Okay, let's just paint the worst case scenario picture. If there were, for instance, a civil war to break out in South Africa, what would that, if we're not going to de-link in the near future, maybe in 50 years' time, would it be a possibility?
So I think that the basic decision around de-linking would stem back to the strength of our economy. Okay. So I think if we can grow our economy, and if we can grow some of our manufacturing capabilities, some of our service capabilities and so on, that we are much less vulnerable to these internal and external shocks, then it becomes more of an option. The other thing that would make it a relatively more attractive proposition is if something goes really badly wrong in South Africa. So like you say, if there's a civil war, perhaps one example, more important for me, if we see an erosion of property rights in South Africa, all your big banks move out, all of your big financial services move out, your manufacturing companies move out, and that economy shrinks dramatically, then it would also perhaps make sense for us to consider that. That's a really inconceivable thing at the moment. But should it go that way, then certainly. What I would say is that one day Namibia will decouple from the rand. We hope that it'll be by choice. but it will be by choice at such a time that our economy is strong enough to be able to have a free floating exchange rate of our own.